Before we start, we need to tell you up front we are not a licensed financial planning, accounting or law firm. This is simply an education program which will give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice around finance, business, investing, options trading or anything else. That is not what this presentation does. Please see a licensed financial planner when it comes to any investment advice you need.
Edge Radio Australia. We have got Derek in the building, mate. Always great to see you. And why would you be here?
What, for the greater wealth? Whatever else would I be?
What else would you possibly be?
Well, fine company as well. But
Derek Whittaker, you're a gentleman and a scholar.
Fine company that I might even consider having breakfast with sometime. But,
why not? Right? Why not? Look, as long as we're not having dinner then breakfast, I'm happy. I'm good with that. Sitting over there on his own as he should be, it's Travis Carter.
I've been put into the corner.
Yes, the naughty corner.
All alone. Nobody.
Get used to it. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always in the naughty corner.
You really are, mate. You've got, of course, in front of you the old computer doing the social stuff. And people, when they come on board, please, put through a question. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. Now, Derek, you've got this thing in front of you. Some people call it a computer. And it's got squiggly lines going on.
It's called my office.
It's your office, yes. Now, those squiggly lines, they mean something, right?
They are. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later, what that means.
Oh, okay.
It's in red, which is not a good sign for the company. I want to talk about Christmas shopping a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
Okay, today. I want to get practical because it is November. And for people who
Please don't remind me.
want to do online shopping, is now the time they've got to start thinking about it for delivery times. And given...
No, you need to do that back in August. Sorry, I just ordered something from Sydney and it took 2 months to get to Perth.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So we'll talk about that a little bit later. You want to talk about some stuff called credit ratings for states and why that's important. Some people might go, oh, that sounds a bit boring, but you'll be surprised. It's actually more relatable than you think.
It's a little bit scary, the impact that it does actually have on your everyday life.
Yeah.
Especially in the job markets. I was thinking about this while we're doing the intro, and it's like, so that's going to get interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to have a talk about is the big buzzword I've noticed in the media at the moment is inflation and how scary the government's making it. So I want to have a chat to you about what people can do in their everyday lives to help counter what's actually happening on the inflation side of things.
Yep.
So just leaving the government and everyone else in the Reserve Bank out of it, just what can everyday people do to start having an actual genuine effect on inflation?
Love
that
that
they can
idea.
do. Sort of
Love that idea. Yep.
So, but personally, I really, really want to start with the credit rating.
Let's do it.
Okay.
We're trying to buy another investment property at the moment, and its credit ratings is shocking. But I was really surprised because we pulled our own credit ratings up, and what's in there is actually quite amazing. And then, sure enough, I think Google's been listening to what I'm searching and stuff like that.
No way, really?
All of a sudden, the news headline: the Victorian government has gone down to what's known as a AA credit rating.
Really, AA?
So, what I think we do, we get the guy with the glasses, because glasses mean you're smart.
Of course.
And we'll get Derek to actually explain what a state's credit rating is. And then we can start talking about how it's actually going to affect people, why it's actually really important, why we maintain not just the countries, but also states' individual credit ratings as well.
Okay.
Sure. So a credit rating is just simply like it is for an individual, or a company or business. When you want to get a loan for a particular item, whether it be a car or a house, whatever it might be, they look at somebody's ability to pay that back.
Sure.
And if somebody's had a poor ability to do that, they have a credit rating that reflects that. And it's no different from a country or a state in terms of their rating and whether their ability to pay that back is good or bad. So it's interesting to see how those credit ratings change, especially in the environment where we've come out of COVID, and a lot of them really pushed the credit card on that.
Just a bit.
And Victoria's an interesting one on that matter, because what you had was a tremendous amount of spending going on to keep people unproductive in home, locked up.
Yep.
One of the most heaviest-handed responses to COVID in the world. I'm still getting pictures of what the police force did there to people who were
constantly, right?
Yeah, yep. I'm still seeing those images, and they really are disturbing. And it brings back, and you start thinking, this is in Australia of all places.
Yeah.
We're not Brazil.
And couple that with people just left the state. It was
Sure.
like 30,000 people went, and prices in property rose in Queensland because they could all get there. They couldn't come up to WA, very few of them, because our borders were so tight. So that has, you look at that from an economic perspective, and then you have things like, okay, we'll put 15 million on the netball, and that's of taxpayers' money and what they're spending their money on, and it reduces the confidence in some ways of what they're actually spending money on. Now, you have to look at what does Victoria actually produce in relation to it as a state. Every state is different.
I think it's got the highest concentration of Karens of any state. I mean, that's definitely what they're producing over there, but there you go.
So, and I think as a financier, you've got to ask yourself, look, if you had the choice between, so this is where it comes into. So bonds. Bonds are important. Okay, we've talked about bonds on previous shows. Bonds are those IOUs that state governments or governments produce that they want to bring in currency.
Sure.
Investors buy bonds to then get that percentage back in terms of return on investment on an investment. So they're going to look at state to state, which has a better credit rating, which am I going to get higher yield for my bond as an investor. So there's that aspect of investing and returning from that. But I mean, look at it from this perspective. If you were a foreign investor,
right,
and you had the choice between somewhere like Western Australia versus Victoria, and you're going to give, $1 billion
sure,
in lending,
yep,
to one of the states, you might look at the credit rating and go, what is the more secure one here, and which one's going to give me the biggest bang for buck and return of investment?
Yeah, safety as well, obviously, yeah.
And if you've had 30,000 people leave one particular state,
yep,
you start to go, okay, why are they leaving?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
What's going on there? You're going to dig deeper. So there's all that comes into play. Plus,
it's confidence. I mean, literally, it's simple as that.
And political stability.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. So that's why, Travis, those AAA credit ratings are often envied by state governments because it makes them look good.
Now, if we have a look at that to the flip side, the people who are actually giving the money to the state are generally other countries. It's not generally coming from the Australian government. It's coming from not only the private sector within the country, but also other countries. And we'll use Victoria as an example on this one. So China invests an insane amount of money in trying to invest into Victoria.
Sure.
I can see Derek's in there going, oh, you had to do it. So what happens is, if the investment into a state dries up, because obviously Australia is still a very, very small country, our GDP isn't that large when you start talking about America, China, India, and all these other major entities. If there's no investment into a state, especially around things like infrastructure, where's the jobs?
Yeah, okay.
And this is why it's actually really, really important, especially for like certain states, especially if you got a large percentage of your population moving out. How do you get people to stay in the state?
Well, look, okay,
jobs.
Yeah, exactly. You building things is a damn good way. I mean, if you look at, if we're going to use obviously Victoria as an example there, I mean, look, all of the jobs building cars at Ford, they've all gone over the last few years. I mean, that's a massive industry, and it's not just the cars themselves, not making Falcons, not making Territories, all that sort of thing. It's also the people who make bolts and washers and plastic clips.
It goes further than that as well, because let's say you've got an industry that builds something. So let's say America, for example, Australian government tried to keep them here, gave them GM $2 billion, and then they fled the country anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you've got all these cars that are being built in the area. So obviously you need the workers. The workers need houses. The houses, the people living in those houses and their family need to buy food. They need to have electricity. They need to have power. They need to go down to the gym to stay healthy. There's all that sort of stuff. Now, they don't drive. These cars are made in Australia. You're going to need mechanics to look after those cars.
That's right.
And then on top of that, you still don't need mechanics, but you don't need, instead of like just cut one piece off, put a new one on. With a lot of the Fords, why I like the Fords and Holdens, where they were very, very easy to repair. You could actually just switch a part out. It wasn't a case of you just get rid of the car. And then once you go to buy a new car, obviously you've got an old car that you need to get rid of. So then you've got the used car market. So there's this massive flow on. Yeah, the initial investment might have been $2 billion to keep the company here, but it's all the flow on investment that's going on from there. And that's what's getting cut out by us not manufacturing. And if there's no investment into the state, there's going to be no manufacturing, there's going to be no infrastructure built. So this is another reason why it's really, really important that the investors have confidence in the state that they're investing into.
Completely agree. Okay. I mean, so as you've both just covered, I mean, it is absolutely the flow-on effect. You know, you can't just keep making roads. You know, as much as it's nice to have an easier drive in, the reality is anything you're adding value to. So if you're going to be, you know, a state like, say, WA, where we export our iron ore, you know, back what happened to the days where we'd actually, you know, good old BHP would make steel here.
It's funny you should say BHP because it's just going back to the manufacturing. So they actually closed the BHP refinery, and that's where they used to make all the oil and everything.
Sure.
And the thing, I think they call it a cracker, where they actually do the distilling of the oil into diesel and petrol.
Sure.
They've actually shipped it to another state. We don't.
You're kidding me?
No, deadly serious. Shipped it to Geelong.
Right. Wow.
So we don't even manufacture, even though we mine so much oil and gas in Australia, we don't manufacture in WA anymore.
But it's right across the board. Okay, like let's talk about our trains. Our trains are made in another country. Our submarines that we're going to be using are made in France, right? But it's this again. We've got these wonderful raw materials. We've got staff. We've got people, and we want to, you know, train and give skills to. If we're not value adding, then all we're doing is basically we're shortcutting the whole process, and we're I don't know. We're just not looking after our future. We're certainly not producing jobs for our kids and grandkids.
I've got a question for Derek on this one. Would you say that a state's credit history would be a pretty good, sorry, not credit history, credit rating is a pretty good indication of how trustworthy that government is on the financial side of things?
That's a hard one because governments change, first of all. And so usually it's a flow-on effect to the economy later on, right? So in politics, it's very easy to point the finger, go, you're at fault. No, you're at fault. Your party did wrong. Your party did wrong. That's what politics is, right? Let's face it.
It's a bunch of children saying, no, you did it, and have a tantrum.
Yeah, my gang's better than your gang.
That's right.
So I don't know that that's fair, but certainly politics. There's three factors that we look at in the stock market that affect the price of a share. And one of them is politics. The second is the economy, and the third is interest rates. Those three factors are often interrelated as well.
Of course.
So this is why we're so heavy on politics, because fiscal policy is huge. It's a huge effect on day-to-day companies, and then a flow-on effect to mum and dads. So in answer to your question, it's somewhat responsible, but it's not always. And you've got to remember too, we're very much connected in terms of the world global economies now, right? So the price of oil is not necessarily Australia's fault or any political party's fault here in Australia. That's what's driving inflation at the moment is the oil market. Australia doesn't really have a big say in that, to be honest. United States has a huge say in that. Europe's response, or the European Union's response in recent times, has been a big play in that. So you've got to remember the international factor as well when it comes to economies.
Okay. Let's look at it a different perspective then. Do you think the interest rates would have a greater impact or versus the actual governmental policies? Which would you feel, if both were sending opposite signals, which would you lean more towards?
Are we chicken or the egg here?
Definitely. We know the egg came before the chicken.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. Are you saying which one's greater, politics or economy, in terms of affecting what?
So let's say at the moment inflation is out of control. They're trying to bring it back in by increasing interest rates. So obviously as they increase interest rates, they'll have a direct impact on the financial market. But then with the government losing their AAA credit rating going down to a AA, so obviously investments into Victoria, in this example, is going to be looked at less favorably than, say, if WA had a AAA credit rating. But if the government is actually taking steps to actually try and improve that, and they've got really good policies coming through the pipeline to try and repair that, would you be looking at more at what's happening on the interest rate market? Would you put more weighting onto the interest rates, or would you put more weighting onto what policies are coming through?
Probably more policies, because interest rates are determined by banks, which is generally outside of government control. Interest rates are more responsive than proactive. They look at the overall economy and then decide whether to raise or lower them. So it's kind of response measured as opposed to setting the pace.
Okay.
But traditionally, what the Federal Reserve is doing right now in terms of the way it's hitting interest rates so hard, that is certainly taking a ripple effect in terms of its aggressive measure to try to get inflation under control. So that move there is having an effect on banks worldwide. Because it's the biggest economy in the world. So in that instance, they're going, we have got to do this, and politicians are then responding in response to that. Well, you'd hope they would be. It's arguable whether they are or making a correct response to that. So I think I'm more, look, put yourself this way. If you're an investor, right, and you look at, should I invest in this country or that country? You're generally going to look at two things: political stability, return on investment, right? And not so much interest rates, because international investors can get very better favorable rates globally than they will at the local retail bank.
Of course.
Okay. They'll be doing internationally, which bank can I deal with to do this investment? That's how the wealthy operate.
Okay.
So it's kind of a different play there. Plus, the wealthy don't necessarily always fund it themselves. They'll use other people's money to fund things as well, which is one of the secrets of the rich.
Yes, very much so. I think that's the fundamental difference between, the regular folk and the rich. Let's face it, they're using other people's money to create wealth.
The big thing I notice is, especially the wealthy, they pay taxes after they've earned the money, where everyday people like us, we pay the tax before we get our money from our employer.
Pre-tax versus post-tax.
That's right. That's right.
So,
right, gents, we need a break. Okay, I need a break. So with that, we'll be back with another little subject. And, I think things might get a little heated. I don't know. I'm worried about you two today. I'm not sure.
Why?
I can feel the tension in the air.
No, I'm just tired.
Are you just tired? Oh, well, there you go.
6 o'clock starts just do not work
look,
for me.
Tell you what, the three of us are not morning people. And look, we had to do a
breakfast.
I know. What's that all about? It was delicious, though. That's the focus, right?
You wanted to talk about inflation. I think can we take a step back and go, what is inflation? Because this word's bandied around. A lot of people don't quite understand what it actually is.
Please do.
There's two parts to inflation, right? Most people think it's the increase in cost of purchasing goods. That's what I think most people are feeling right now, right? But there's also the second part of that. It's the devaluation of the purchase power of money over time. So your money doesn't buy the amount that it could. It used to
previously,
yeah. So like you take $100 and you buy your groceries with $100. Well, in a few months' time, now that $100 is not buying the groceries that you used to buy. You're having to put a few items back for the same amount of money. So it's the $100 has lost its purchasing power. So there's two parts to that, and there's two responses to that. So there's this consumer response that says, okay, how can I get more money in? Then there's the investor response that goes, how can I protect the valuation of my wealth?
Right. Why can't I buy Graceland for $100,000 anymore? Come on, right? Go on.
So that's what we've got to keep in mind. Now, if you've been wondering how Australia is faring in terms of the world, the other thing about inflation, let me just say that before I get into this. There are pros and cons to everything, right? And there's some pros in actually inflation. It's this: asset value goes up.
Yeah, but everything goes up. So to me, it's just a status quo. You're still in the same place because all the costs have come up.
But if you're an investor, right? If you are holding assets that are going up in value, you're going fantastic. Inflation's a good thing in this instance. Okay.
Good, very
especially if you've got retirees with a lot of money in term deposits. High levels of interest rates are generally good. So when inflation goes up, generally the banks will just raise their interest rates to try and bring it back down. So it's always a good time for retirees in that situation.
Okay.
The other pro of inflation is that a certain level of inflation encourages people to spend money. Okay. And we saw that when Donald Trump got into power, reduced corporate tax rate, more money was floating, and he was telling offshore companies, bring your money off your offshore companies, you'll get a lower reduced tax break. Means more money supply was in the economy and circulating, which meant more businesses were going, right, we'll take more employees on, we'll build things, take more loans out to build infrastructure into our businesses and all that sort of stuff. So that inflation, we saw prices go up in property. That was actually good for the economy because it meant people were working again. So there is a level of it. It's when it gets out of control, that's when they get really, really concerned. And this is what they're trying to do. They're wanting to keep it within ideally central banks like 2 to 3% in their inflation rate. They think that's a healthy rate. The cons for inflation are that goods and services increase, Cash investors losing the devaluation of their savings.
Sure.
They get caned, and that hurts your pensioners. And the flow-on increase can take time to filter through an economy. So you may not feel it immediately, but 6 months down the track, you're starting to notice that your milk is costing more at the grocery store.
Yep.
Your fuel prices are costing more. Sorry?
The milk. I drink a lot of milk,
Okay.
and that's why I'm so tall and handsome. 7 coffees, like 7 lattes a day minimum. But it used to be like you go down to and get the Harvey Fresh milk. It was like $4 for 3 liters. Like, it wasn't too bad. I just went and got one. It was like $5.50.
Yeah, but that's kind of another story too, because the fact of the matter is the actual farmers have been getting screwed for a really long time on that.
There's also the price gouging aspect too. That the middleman, the big grocery stores have been trying to push and get a monopoly on certain markets.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. Now, how's Australia faring in terms of globally, in terms of inflation? Well, the latest stats came out in September of this year, 2022. The United States inflation rate was at 8.2% compared to 8.3% in August. So it improved slightly, very slightly.
Hang on. We're talking about an improvement. We're in the 8s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's measuring it month to month.
Okay.
Australia sits at 7.3% in September of 2022.
And you reckon about 3 is good, hey?
Well, that's what economists aim
Sure.
for. 2% ideally, 3%, 2 to 3%.
Okay.
Argentina and Turkey are at 83.5% and 83% respectively for September.
What about, you know, when Venezuela just effectively just gave up on their currency? What were they sitting on at the time?
Oh, look, I'd have to research. What period? We've got to define it by which period.
Okay.
Because that's how inflation's measured.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know for September. I'd have to.
I wonder what the
research it.
marker is when you just go, hang on, look, the economy has just collapsed. I mean, you know, the issues that they had in Greece a few years ago, all that sort of thing. You know, what's the magic marker?
Because-
Lebanon is the highest at 162% for September.
Is that just for in September the inflation has gone up that much?
Yeah, it's been measured in that period. Yeah, it's gone up. And South Sudan has gone from 6.43% in August to minus 2.5% in September. I don't think that's a fair comparison. South Sudan is such a different economic circumstances. You're dealing with extreme poverty and all that sort of stuff that a lot of these other nations don't deal with. What's driven it is that the US government's printed 80% more money from $4 trillion in January 2022 to $20 trillion in October.
Well, hang on. So can we go back on that time period? When did they say they've effectively doubled the amount of cash that's in?
No, not double.
No.
I misheard you. 80% more money.
Oh, sorry. I misheard you completely. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So they went to the printing press and the Democrats said, yep, we'll take it on. 80% more money than they've ever had in their economy.
But Biden seems so sharp and bright and right on the money.
You can't even find a footpath. Come on.
So what that led to was that you had COVID-19 interrupting supply chains globally.
Sure.
Government's going crazy on printing money and stimulus checks for its citizens, right? And then there was, of course, because all this money was in circulation, you had a large spike in US real estate market because everybody's going, we want to get into bigger properties because we feel with these lockdowns we've been clammed up. And the Democrats then pushed green energy with billions of dollars available for refueling electric vehicle stations. So Congress released a big bill. It didn't get a lot of publicity. And a lot of the oil producers, said, we're abandoning our oil fields and going to go for this because the government's handing out money. And if we don't, we'll end up being a dinosaur if we don't go there.
Yep.
So they pivot and do that. Many blaming Russian, the Ukrainian war for interruption to oil and gas supplies. I'm saying that's
rubbish.
That's the smokescreen. The climate change agenda has been very disruptive to agriculture production as well in nations like the Netherlands. And it's that climate change agenda. The Democrats are going, we want to kill fossil fuels. The world is not ready to go to green energy. You look at the numbers, it just doesn't make economic sense.
It's got to be a progressive thing.
It's
Otherwise, it
just another thing a lot of people, I read a lot of these financial reviews and that. And the other one that they're starting to claim is it's the OPEC. So it's the oil producing something countries. So it's like Iran, Iraq. There's a whole heap of them. I think there's about 12 of them from memory that produce something like 40% of the global oil prices. And so they keep reducing it by 2 million barrels a day or something. So a lot of people now that they're realizing it's not actually the war in Ukraine that's actually causing the oil shortage and the fuel shortage. Then now there's been like a pivot in the media, and they're now starting to blame the OPEC. So at the moment, they've actually tabled a bill called the NOPAC deal, which is mixed reviews. Some are saying it's good, some are saying it's bad. It's I don't really 100% understand it yet, so I've still got to do some more reading on it. But it's amazing how much of an impact actually the media has in what people are perceiving as what's going on, especially with the large oil companies and the government releasing the green bill to get people to switch from carbon fuels over to the green fuels, because they want to be seen to be doing the right thing by the environment. So,
and I think that's
also
the
need
point.
to take the media into account.
The whole point is to be seen to be doing the right thing. Doing the right thing has become immaterial, right? It's all about optics, right?
Well, have a look at BP on that one. They spend more money advertising how green they're going than actually finding green energy sources.
Yeah.
So,
that's the world we live in.
whatever.
So higher energy costs are really increasing transportation costs, which is a ripple effect of increasing manufacturing costs, which are then passed on to the consumer. So that's really what's been going on in terms of this. Now, what does it mean for mum and dads and how they handle it? Well, it depends if you're an employee or you're a business owner. All right, and how you place yourself. Entrepreneurs might be looking at what businesses really prosper in down economic times. Okay, I remember I went through this recession Australia had to have straight out of university with a media degree. You know, back then that was like, whoa, that's a nice piece of paper you got there to hang on the wall. We don't really consider that anything.
I think it's the early childhood studies of that era.
Yeah. They didn't.
As effective as a gender studies degree.
And I think gender studies. Yeah,
I think a lot of people felt threatened by that in the industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I actually did in the interim is got a job at a company called Foodland Associated Limited back then in the day.
Remember that?
They were doing, you know, I ended up in the printing press for all the little Bilos and Farmer Jacks and printing all that. And they were rocketing. They were doing really, really well. Oh, because everybody needs to eat. And people were looking for cheaper food to eat and supply. So that got me through the recession when I was an employee, a kid out of high school, out of university. So as an entrepreneur, you go, what do people have to buy in times of recession? They still got to eat. They still got to get around from A to B to get to their jobs. They may health, and that industry is going to be interesting. They still, you know, if you're in absolute pain in your body, you're going to do something about it. You know, to survive, get through.
I was old enough to actually remember the 2007 GFC. I'm actually a qualified personal trainer. I don't train anymore. Haven't done it for a couple of decades, but I still had mates in the industry. When the GFC first came through, they said that a lot of people were cutting back on luxury items like personal training sessions, gym memberships, stuff like that, to cut back. But they were saying they were finding a lot of people, because they weren't eating the good quality food, they were like cutting back on the quality of the food. A lot of health issues were coming back, which only health and exercise and having that not financial, but a health person to help them through. So he said it was really strange. Yes, he got a massive downturn first, but about halfway through, everyone started coming back because it was getting too expensive to go to the doctors. It was getting too expensive to go to getting all the procedures done, or the medical costs. Even though, like, let's say you're on a pension and your script's only like $6.20 or something per script.
Okay.
It adds up really, really quickly, where if you spend that money, instead of doing a couple of scripts every week, you send that to the gym membership, and that you fight your cholesterol problems that way. Because a lot of people were getting very sedentary. They weren't actually going out and doing the exercise themselves. So it still came back. But I think health, anything to do with health, is going to be another industry that's going to be very secure.
So I look at it this way. What can mum and dads do? One thing that I've been pushing for a long time, even before inflation was like this, saying, grow your own food. Because one, it's healthier. You know what's gone into it, what chemicals aren't on it, and what poisons are on it. Secondly, you're going to save a lot of money. 3, it's a great educational tool to teach your kids, as an education tool about multiplication, finance, agriculture, all that sort of stuff, self-sustenance. So that's another thing that people can look at.
And getting out in the sun. I can't stress how good that is. And this is coming to the guy that's so white he's pink because, like, he doesn't have a tan. But I always feel better when I get sunburnt.
Another industry that I find interesting around inflation is mechanics. Generally, people aren't buying new cars and upgrading them. There's also already a shortage of new cars anyway. They generally do pretty well because people go, I'm going to hang on to the old car and I'll just keep getting it serviced and get it repaired in this period in the interim. So I remember a guy picking that business when that was happening. The bottom line is this, and people are thinking about fuel costs. How much is it going to cost if I travel here regularly, go from A to B? So they may decide to do public transport, looking at all those alternatives. Yes, the travel time's longer. people start thinking that way.
Sure.
Entrepreneurs go, well, if people are thinking that way, well, I'll provide them the transportation that is reasonably cheap to do that.
Sure.
There's opportunities and all of that. I think the attitude that you've got to come across is this. There may be an economic... People have asked me, is Australia going to go into recession? You were one of the first, Travis.
Yeah.
And my whole response is this. It may. But guess
Doesn't
what?
matter.
I'm not planning to participate in it.
I love that.
And
I love that.
that's the response we need to have, because everybody's on the defensive. You listen to the news media, you listen to all that. They're all negative about this. They're all scared. All the politicians are going that. And I'm going, we as Australians, why should we participate in a global downturn recession? Why?
Look,
We've got enough resources as it is.
This very station we are sitting in right now came out of the middle of COVID. Okay. When there was, it was all die, all terrible, terrible stuff going on. No one's going to make money, all kind of carry on. Ultimately, you've got to make that decision. You go, hang on, look, are we going to live in that glum, or are we going to go, hey, this is the perfect time, Brent. So low, we've got more time, if you're not going to be making money anyway, you may as well try and get a business started. It's a mindset, see that opportunity in.
Other thing I've noticed as well, especially like with the lockdowns, people not wanting to travel for work and stuff like that, realizing my education level is probably not where it should be if I got to pivot or change something that I'm doing. So I've noticed people looking at courses that they can do. I've noticed that the government is putting out a heap of those free accounting, bookkeeping courses and all that sort of stuff to help people get themselves set up properly. I think it's something, especially if someone's worried about the recession coming up, get yourself educated.
Also, to redo your budget. It's healthy to do a spring clean of your finances regularly. I remember doing this some years ago and discovering all these subscriptions that I had in my business.
Guilty.
I was like, oh, okay. And, it may not sound much, $10 here, $15 here, but I got rid of my 1,300 number in my business because nobody was ever calling it.
Yeah.
Nobody was calling it. It was only costing me $10 a month. But I thought, why? Because the line wasn't that good anyway. Nobody was calling me on it. And when I did get calls, it was costing me. And it was usually a misdialed number. So wow. I thought there's no point. So
well, just really basic terms. Okay. It came out of my account yesterday, $15 for my Apple subscription for,
do you even have an Apple phone?
My old Apple phone that I don't use anymore. Right. It sits there and I use it for eBay. That's about it. It's not, it's not connected anymore, just through Wi-Fi. But because, it's quite frankly an absolute nightmare to get all the information off it, and I'd like to, and there's lots of really important stuff on that phone and on that account. Now, I have had that account there at $15 a month doing absolutely nothing for the last 18 months. What an absolute waste of money, right? Whereas, hey, spend a little time, download the bloody thing, get rid of that $15 a month. Now, it's not a lot of money, and because it's not a lot of money, you kind of say, I'll get to it.
Sorry, I don't have to call you on this one because you won't be downloading. You'll go, how the hell do I do this? I'll just call Travis.
Where's the NEP?
So it's like, come on. I will have to do it. And it's like, Aaron, just pay the $15.
All right, so Travis now has a new job. Okay, Travis is going to help me out on this one, but it is stupid. But you're absolutely right. I look at the same thing. Netflix, right? Netflix.
I know we got rid of that.
Okay, I've got a
use that
subscription
neighbour's
still.
account.
What a waste of time. I don't watch that
But
rubbish.
the thing is, Aaron, imagine how many people you are going to disadvantage by you cancelling your subscription.
What?
Because everyone else will be using your subscription.
Well, this is fascinating what you're saying, because look at how many big tech companies are cutting employees at the moment in the United States.
Yeah.
We've seen Elon Musk take Twitter over and is cleaning that by what, 50% of the workforce is
I
going?
heard 50%. And now I haven't been able to find out if this is true or not, but apparently his team went through the company, all of them, and said, right, what's your pronouns? And the moment someone went him, her, or whatever, they went, right, you're fired.
Yep.
So apparently that's what happened. Again,
I believe
unverified.
Total urban myth, I'm sure, but okay.
It's still a good story, though.
Apparently he's always hot. Maybe it could be a thyroid issue. I don't know, but clearly it's not your looks. I've got Derek here now. Look, come on, mate.
Smell that? Can you smell that? It smells like jealousy.
Oh, it smells like fear, actually, but there you go.
Jealousy.
All right.
So,
not
hey,
of me.
just let me pull my hair out of my eyes.
If you could, mate.
Call him
Mate.
Fabio next week.
Exactly.
I am
Mate.
Fabio, the most beautiful man of the cosmos.
Do you know what's really frightening? I literally went to a fancy dress party once as Fabio, the most beautiful man in the cosmos. And what I did is I wore a dinner jacket, my own natural long hair back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And I took with me a tub of, I can't believe it's not butter. Because he used to do ads for them. I cannot believe it's not butter.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a finance show. It's called The Greater Wealth. It's really a lifestyle show, actually. I really think it is. I don't think we kind of got a little finance involved, but it's ultimately about, finding your life purpose.
It is. Now, I wanted to get back to you. We're going to talk about Christmas shopping in a few moments, but I want to get back to you about a question you asked last week about Amazon going down.
Yes.
I want to put it in perspective for you because I thought it's hard. It's gone down a lot in the last year, okay?
Right.
From the 52, when we look at stocks, we've got a 52-week high and a 52-week low.
Sure.
And that gives us a perspective. Where is it in that range right now? So in the last year, it was trading at $188.11 US.
Right.
Currently, it is trading at $90.98.
Whoa.
So in terms of if you're one of these buy and hold investors, long-term type of thing, this is a losing trade.
Yeah.
You've lost, 50% of your value on that stock. And so this is what's been going on. So one of the interesting things is it fell last week, and you were asking me, it had fallen another 10% in the stock price. And it was really, a lot of these stocks fluctuate with their earnings announcements. So it didn't meet the expectations that analysts were saying.
Sure.
And this is why it fell even further. And this is happening a lot to big tech. Again, we're coming out of COVID where people were ordering lots of things online in lockdown, and I'm bored, so I'll spend money and order this in and this thing to improve my life. And all the NASDAQ, which is the index that measures all the tech stocks, has been dropping significantly this year.
Okay.
Right. So what goes up must come down. It was a nosebleed heights anyway to begin with. So that's what we're seeing at the moment. To put it into the economic perspective, the company called for revenue of 140 billion to 148 billion, and it fell short of that. So that's why it's dropped. Now, you think of that from an investment perspective, you're looking for companies that are typically what they do if they're investing. I'm a trader, which is a different mindset.
Sure.
But investors are thinking, what can I buy that's going to grow long term? When a stock has reached that point where, okay, has it maxed out? Can it grow any further from here? Where's it going to go?
Yep.
Should I sell now while it's high and look for other opportunities elsewhere? And I think that's led to a lot of the expectation what's going there. What's also interesting is because it's a very retail driven company, if America, which it technically is, in recession at the moment, they're just trying to redefine it at the moment, that gives a different perspective too on where big money wants to place its money.
Sure.
These big investment firms are going, okay, if America's is in recession and the outlook looks like we're going to continue in recession for a while, retail usually has a flow-on effect. People spend less on disposable goods and go from there. So, yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, Amazon was obviously going to always go really well during COVID because people were exactly trapped in their homes, and something coming in the old mail does make you feel good, whether you like it or not. It makes you superficial or whatever. That's just reality, right?
Well, it peaked in the COVID years of 2020, 2021.
Absolutely.
It certainly did well.
I'm wondering, are people actually going back and enjoying the experience of actually shopping in person anymore? I mean, is that had an effect on it? And the reason I say that is, funny enough, I mean, Christmas coming up, we've been talking about this, and people are just shopping a lot online still. That's what I'm noticing. I mean, when you go to the shops, they're a lot quieter than they've been before. Certainly in my sort of take.
I think people are conscious of fuel costs to get to the shops.
Yeah,
I think that's part of it.
Got a lot to do with it.
I mean, I'm certainly thinking in terms of, I was at a bookstore the other day. People actually buy books. I was at a bookstore, and I thought to myself, this is quite a ways from home. I found something I thought for my wife for Christmas. I thought, I'm going to buy it now because I don't really want to have to travel all the way back out here. One, it's going to cost me time, and it's going to cost me fuel to come out back here and think about it. I'll get it now and just save myself some bucks in the future. Got her something. So
makes sense.
I cannot remember the last time I actually went to a shop.
Yeah, but you are weird. You are a nerd.
Yes.
You sit at home and play games all day. I know.
No, I sit at home and read financial reviews and
who does your weekly shop?
Do I have to answer?
Mm-hmm.
The one.
Yeah. That's why you haven't been to a shop recently.
That's right.
No, it's just like how can I put this without sounding like an arsehole? Like,
Well, it's too late, Travis. It's you. Okay, go on.
so I hate people.
Yeah, okay, lovely.
Like, I know that sounds really, really weird, but what's happened?
You don't
is-
hate people. You love people. I've watched you around people.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy people's company. I don't, but I'm very selective
Crowds.
of who I spend my time with.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when I find going to the shops is I'm forced to do what the shops want me to do if I want to go buy their products. And especially with COVID, I made a conscious decision. I am not going to participate in a society that forces their opinion onto me.
Yeah, okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm becoming more and more of an absolutist libertarian,
Sure.
where your own personal rights, your decision on how you live your life is absolutely 100% for you. So getting super political here, by the way. And so I've got to the point, it's like, if I
Travis political? What?
yeah,
Never.
if I don't want to deal with the company, I won't. I
Yeah,
just
okay.
flat out, I refuse to deal with the company, because whenever I go shopping, it's generally actually, sorry, that's a lie. I ran out of milk and I love my coffee. So I made a trip to IGA about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Glad I was sitting down for
Oh,
that.
Jesus.
So,
Big spend.
What a relief.
but normally when I go to the IGA or whatever the shops is, I refuse to go to Coles, Woolworths, all the major chains. I try my hardest not to go to Audi
good on
anymore.
you.
But normally I'd go through, I'd buy my milk, and then I go, you know what, I'll be lazy. I'll grab a couple of 2-minute noodles, chocolate for the kids, and a few other things. Now it's not. No, I refuse to talk to people when
Yeah.
I'm in there.
It's interesting. Now, okay, we'll stay on that topic to a degree. I was in, I think it was yesterday, it was JB Hi-Fi. Okay. Now, I used to love that place. I used to go in there like, oh, Aaron Electronics, it's Christmas, like 365 days a year. So I was on a very good first name basis with the management there. I bought literally ridiculous amounts over the last decade or so. I love JB Hi-Fi. I hate JB Hi-Fi now. The experience is so negative, and you're absolutely right. The social conditioning, when you walk in there, you are basically treated very well. The experience, myself and friends and other people I've talked to have had this feeling now. We're effectively not welcome in there anymore, right?
Yeah.
I go in there, and I'm sorry, but I'm, mind your own business, right?
You know,
So-
as bad as Twitter was and were.
Yeah, it wasn't where exactly right. No, but honestly, I don't fit in. I don't have multicolored hair. I don't have earrings coming from every part of my body. I don't have tattoos all over my body.
You haven't come to a barbecue lately with multiple letters.
That's right. Look, I have had enough of it. And when you go in there, I was treated so rudely. I felt like I didn't belong, and given the worst customer service. Now, we did actually go and spend money. We went and bought something very fancy.
No, I'll go buy it online. I'll get it shipped. I'll wait 2 months for something to arrive from Sydney, or 3 days from China.
Yeah.
And I refuse, it puts me out.
Sure.
We've got a few printing jobs we're doing. We've had to delay it because of the lack of paper.
Yep.
That's fine. We got that sorted. But we flat out refuse to deal with any companies that try to force us to do certain things, or the companies that go woke. I've got no interest in dealing with you whatsoever. I'll find an alternative.
Spot on.
to it.
And we literally walked out and we went into another place where, we were treated properly. Okay. And the experience has changed, and it has become cut the crap here. Okay. Let's be very honest. That we had segregation. Okay. We had discrimination, and it's still going on today. And it's disgusting. My dollars are worth exactly the same as somebody with, bloody purple hair.
Sorry, Derek. I know we're supposed to talk.
No, I just find this fascinating. This is, for me, political shopping. I've never seen people so adamant about how they feel strongly about the political place of where shops align themselves and companies. I find this conversation fascinating.
Yeah, well,
this is new to me.
Right.
I personally will adjust my spendings because if I don't agree with a particular company.
Yep.
But you guys take it to another level. You're passionate about it. So it's interesting to hear this conversation. I'm wondering how many people feel the same way. In fact, if you're watching on the socials, why don't you put the comment in? Do you shop this way, or do you don't shop that way? I'd be fascinated to know,
because we do have a few comments from Josh. I don't know why they're not coming through onto the stream, so I've got to go back and take
while you're doing that. Let me just say this. Obviously, it's November, and a lot of people who do their online shopping are probably thinking get in now because supply chains have been interrupted.
Sure.
It takes longer for things to get through. In some ways, that's a good way to do it, because I think you're less prone to impulse buys.
Yeah, very
right.
True, very true.
As opposed to in the shops, you go, the checkout and all those spontaneous ones. I'm very cautious about impulse buys, and I think that going into the Christmas period, if you're feeling the effects of inflation and that's the sort of thing, really ask yourself. When I shop, I look for quality.
Mm-hmm.
So I go, where is the quality? What's the best bang for buck here?
Yeah.
One of my little tests that I do, and my son's cotton onto this, is that we go in a shop and you see something. I say, look, okay, you like that now? Give it the 30-minute test. Where if you're still thinking about it in half an hour, then yeah, maybe we'll consider buying it. But if you're not, then you don't really like it. That's one little test we do when we're in the malls and that
when
sort
I
of
was
stuff.
talking about going to IGA, it's like, oh, Bueno chocolates, love them. Now it's like, yeah, no, I'm not giving you a cent extra than what I have to.
The other thing I've been doing since I personally have been buying a bit of precious metal this year and that sort of stuff, and silver in particular, I look at it and go, this is going to cost me 1 ounce of silver. Do I really want it? That's how I kind of look at it. I'm going, I could either buy the silver now or I could buy this. Which one do I want?
Yeah, look,
I just want to quickly go to a comment from Josh. This was a bit ago in regards to where we were talking about interest rates and trying to fix the credit rating for the states. Bank raising interest rates is based on the idea that demand is driving the rise in prices. This inflation is due to oversupply of money, and then in brackets, government around the world printing money to pay people to sit at home the entire pandemic. And I hate to say it, I think he's actually right. And then going back onto the activities to help reduce the inflation, the cycle, and he was saying that there's heaps of activities you can do that are absolutely dirt cheap. So
yeah.
I think the difficult thing, those are great comments. Thanks for that, Philip. Just one other train of thought before I forget it. I think one of the difficult things around Christmas is it's so emotionally driven.
Yes.
Right? The family traditions. Our family, like the way we shop and give for my wife's side of the family is completely different from the way we do my side of the family. My wife's side is far more economical than my side. Right. Okay. In the sense that.
Are you in the same leg as Shaq, where he's the Shaka clause and just everyone gets everything?
On my side of the family, it is. Yeah. You have to buy something for everyone. Right. Which I think came from a background, because when my mum and dad migrated here, it was just the four of us, right? And we get the presents from overseas. Yeah. Now that we have started, my sister and I have our own families, our own grandkids, it gets rather expensive.
That was not a good business plan, wasn't it, Derek? Come on.
And yet my wife's side's quite funny. They do the Secret Santa thing where you buy one gift for one individual. They usually spoil the kids, and then the adults will
we don't even
gifts.
do that. So Dad's side of the family's over in New South Wales. Yeah. So we don't really have much dealings with them. But with my mum's side of the family, it's kids only. You do not buy presents for adults under any circumstances. And there's last one I think it was about $15 per child. You're not allowed to spend more than that.
Wow.
Yeah, we really nut down on it.
Yeah. I love the idea. Quite frankly, spoil the kids. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm right down that path. I don't mind buying a table gift, something a little silly or quirky or whatever for, my friends and family at the table. I like that as far as adults go, but as far as kids, can't go nuts. I mean,
the reason we do it, we put a price tag on it because all the kids know everyone got spent the same amount of money on them. Yeah. So that way they can't play favorites. And one of my family members just goes, "Nah, stuffies, or you're all getting $10 note."
Oh,
so none of the kids, because we get into full on. Like when we were kids, we were getting into full on punch ups over who's Nana's favorite.
Right. This is a finance show, right? Okay,
yeah.
Just checking. Okay.
So we like blood noses, broken eye sockets, all that sort of shit.
Meet your brothers, yeah.
Yeah. So, and no, this is my cousins. And, right. the girls, like my female cousins, if my cousin Peter's listening, no, I am still a favorite. Danny's currently favorite, but she's just had a kid. Right. But no, it's like I've always been Nana's favorite because I'm Travis.
I think what we've got to keep in mind here and be aware of is this, and I teach this, and in the Building Wealth Foundation course, you guys are in on this, aren't you?
Yeah,
we're launching it shortly. Somebody's been texting about it while we've been broadcasting. We're doing this course that just gives you the information on how to live your life purpose, but using the techniques that wealthy use. And one of the points that I teach in this class is this: your values will drive what you spend your money on. And what you spend your time on reveal your values.
Absolutely. And again, using COVID as the great sort of, I don't know, basically leveler or whatever. I know through that period, I went through, and for financial reasons at the time, I sold stuff that I just didn't use anymore, right? And
I'm going to your house. You need to keep doing that.
I do a bit. Yeah, okay. I have a lot of stuff.
Can you even open your shed door?
Yes, I can. Okay, now, and everything in there is beautiful and treasured and loved, right? But my point is the amount of money. Okay, I would have sold $20,000 worth of stuff, I reckon. That I didn't even really notice, care about, whatever. And we sow through life, we put this, I don't know, importance on happiness of buying things, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I
So
had a
the
really
things that actually
interesting
matter to
theory
you.
about that one.
Mm.
And the reason why, especially in Western society, we're so set on buy it now because who cares about it later. During the Cold War with Russia, like they were so close to it, like the big fear that they were pushing is at one button, everything goes away. And so
That's
like,
an
why
interesting
wait?
theory,
Just
mate.
buy it now. And that's sort of like, yes, we never went to nuclear war with Russia at the time in the 70s. And it's just sort of like flowed on. So the keeping up with the Joneses sort of thing is mentality is just buy it now, don't worry about it later because there won't be a tomorrow.
I do not care about the Joneses. I wish them great happiness. I just think that, like the problem we've got is we do buy so much stuff that's completely unnecessary. You know, whether it's just a trip to Kmart, for God's sake, to buy something just purely because of a bit of retail therapy.
Yeah.
Why do we do it? It's crazy.
Actually, one thing I want to, one saying that shits me to tears, absolutely shits me, is life is short. I can't stand that saying because I think it's a very, very selfish saying because you're not here just for yourself. And this is, I get a little bit philosophical here. You're not here just for yourself because even after you're gone, your family, your kids and all their generations don't continue on because if you squander your money now, how are you going to help them in the future? So just because you're buying something now because you want to, like, is that going to help the rest of your family down the track?
Nope, not at all.
So I think people, yes, still treat yourself now and then for your hard work, but I've got a spare $100 in the bank, so I'm going to go buy some whiskey because life's short and I want to get drunk this weekend.
The flip side of this, so we've been focusing on the consumerist side of spending with Christmas, but then there's also the generosity. And I think you touched on it when you love spoiling the kids. And I think that's the thing to focus on is how can I be generous to someone who perhaps doesn't have the means to do that as well?
I'm going to destroy this one.
What's interesting?
Go on.
Go on.
Do you think the kid would rather spend time with a toy or time with you?
Now you're asking a value question, right? Because some people's values or love language is gift giving.
Yep.
Others is quality time.
I get that.
And others is quality time. For me, it's like this. Like my wife and I look at like the kids get so many toys from the relatives and all that sort of stuff that we hardly buy them toys. When we do, it's a special. It's like one they really, really wanted. And sometimes if it's more expensive, we'll say to the relatives, hey, they really want this toy. Do you want to go in on it with us? Right. And split the cost. And okay, this was from Nan and Pops and also Mum and Dad or whatever. And split it that way. So the child has that. I think it's the volume versus quality. I think that's what we've got to work with our kids is like, hey, you got 7 toys or you got a really good 3 toys or something like this. And go, that's really, really cool.
Oh, I hate to say this. Harry Potter did a really good summary on that one. When Dudley got, there's only 32 presents this year. I had 33 last year. And like the Daddy Weasley, I forget his name, was saying, but some of them quite a bit more expensive than last year. I don't care. I want another one. And it's like, so his values has been shaped by the dad, by spoiling him as a kid. It's like, now, no, I want more toys, not so much as I want time with the family and something that actually means something to myself. So,
I know this. When I was a child, I would look at the amazing gifts, the massive amount of gifts that I got from Father Christmas. Good old Santa. My God, he spoiled me. And I used to think, geez,
and your
my
parents gave you nothing.
What? Tight asses. They'd buy me one present. Like, they don't. Okay. So this guy, this fat jolly guy with a big beard and red suit, doesn't even know me from a bar of soap. He's got all these other kids to worry about.
Yeah, but
he's spending a fortune on me.
He's the biggest stalker. Absolute stalker is watching you constantly saying whether you're naughty or nice. Like, how much of a stalker do you have to be watching every single kid around the world?
Getting off topic here. Way off topic.
When I woke up to that fact, I tell you right now, I felt so much guilt for years and years of thinking my parents were tight. But you know, there you go.
Well, it's been interesting watching your values come through, gents, for me. And obviously it's in politics and freedom. And it's interesting to see how that influences your shopping.
It does. And like the fact that we've gone effectively 10 minutes over on the show, we really have, because we're personally, and look, let's be honest, you know, we've indulged ourselves a little bit, but ultimately, you know, this is about human connection. Whatever we do in life, okay, it's about human connection. And, you know, as much as I love to tease this fella over here, I do, he's one of my best friends in life. And that's, I'll throw that straight to you as well, Derek. I mean, you know, my life is a lot more valuable with you in it. So, and that's both of you, right? So,
what do you want?
I was almost going,
and with that, we'll end the show. All right. Okay. Thanks very much for being part of the Greater Wealth. We'll be back, obviously, from 1 next Monday.
We've got a big show next week. It's a doozy.
Keep your mouth shut.
Zip it.
all I can tell you is do not miss this show. Seriously, like people, you build these things up. This is huge. All right. And with that,
Can I give a clue?
No.
US Australia crossover?
no,
What?
No.
I won't say that
Don't.
then.
no,
I didn't
Not
say
yet.
that.
no.
Not yet.
Good night, Travis. All right. Thanks you very, very much for being part of the Greater Wealth. It's Edge Radio Australia.